And this player in particular, Christian Watson, he's a receiver out of North Dakota State. People all over social media have taken a liking to this guy. They want him in a 49er uniform. Wide receiver, big body, fast. Played with Trey Lance. People have visions of Burrow and Jamar Chase dancing around in their heads as they go to sleep, counting the Super Bowl trophies. And I want to get your thoughts on it. I'll start with this one because I have some strong opinions on this one. To me, every year this seems to happen. There's a player that captures the imagination of 49er fans, and social media runs with it. It's groupthink, and everybody jumps in on it. Last year, it was Justin Fields, right? And for me, I didn't want Justin Fields, and it had nothing to do with the skill set of Justin Fields. I thought Justin Fields would be fine. I just felt like Trey Lance fit things better and would be a better overall player. So when everybody was zigging, I zagged. I think it's the same situation here. Everybody's got this groupthink. Everybody wants Christian Watson. He fits the measurables, college teammates with Trey. He's another weapon. I get all of that. But I feel like the 49ers are in a good spot at the receiver position for the most part. And there are so many other pressing needs on this team. And the other thing that I will argue is that Christian Watson is not Jamar Chase. I mean, that should be pretty clear. Now, I'm not saying he may come in and just be amazing, right? I don't want to just put limits on this kid, but Jamar Chase was thought to be by a lot a generational talent. A lot of people disagreed with that, but there was a big chunk of people that thought that. This Christian Watson kid, his stock's climbing. They're saying he's a third or a second round pick. They're not saying he's a top 10 pick, at least not yet. We'll see what happens at the combine and whatnot. But for me, I just feel like there's so many other things that this team needs, and they would be doing themselves a disservice if they went after Christian Watson, at least in round 2. If he's there in round 3, I'll listen to it, right? Because at that point, you've taken care of some needs in round 2 and hopefully multiple picks in round 2 if we're talking about a Jimmy trade. But round 2, at least where they're at now, I don't want anything to do with Christian Watson. So for me, I'm not going to fall in love with a kid that I don't think that this team should go and get in this draft. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, LSU and DSU, there's a little bit of a difference as far as like those offenses. Right. You know, a lot of people, I mean, I'm a big Trey Lance fan. I mean, I actually was one of those guys that was Justin Fields a little bit over Trey Lance, but those are the two that I wanted over, you know, Zach and whoever else was on Mac Jones and stuff like that. But NDSU, people don't realize Trey Lance averaged 16 passes per game with NDSU. So it's not like the wide receivers in that offense were getting the ball a lot. And so I don't know. I mean, obviously most people's highlight tape is going to look amazing because it's the best plays that they have. But I really feel like this is coming out of a lot of Brandon Aiyuk confusion. People are looking at Brandon Aiyuk as a bust. People are looking at Brandon Aiyuk like he's not that dude. And I put up a stat on my Twitter, and it basically I showed, you know, through the regular season and the playoffs, Brandon Aiyuk was targeted 5 or more times, 12 times. In those 12 games, he had over 800 yards in receiving and 5 touchdowns. If you stretch that over a 17-game period, he would have been close to 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns. So Brandon Aiyuk isn't a product of not being a good player. He's a product of being an underutilized player because of the scheme and the decision-making of the quarterback that he was playing with. If you look at the breakdowns of Jack Hammer and the film that he does and the film that you do, Aiyuk is open a majority of the time because he's a great route runner. He has amazing hands. But the problem is he's always the deep route. And Jimmy wasn't very confident in being able to make that throw. So he just didn't get the ball as much. But when he does get targeted, he's very productive. And we've seen him make phenomenal catches. I think once people see in his 3rd year, especially with Trey Lance, who we know will make those throws and will make them a lot more accurately than Jimmy would as far as the deep ball, I think that we don't need that position. And especially with Juwan Jennings, I know he's also a restricted free agent. I assume that he's going to be brought back because of, you know, the level of play that he has. But if you're looking at a receiving core of Debo, Aiyuk, and Jennings, along with Kittle, where is this kid going to play? And if you're utilizing a second round pick on a guy, you want him to be a day one starter. And I think the 49ers have already blown last year's second round pick without getting a day one starter out of it. I just don't envision doing it again with a guy like Christian Watson. I think that I would much rather them go for a secondary pick with their second round. And that's how I see it too. I think this is just getting excited rather than looking at what will actually make the team better.
Yeah, and there's some comments on the chat, and this is what I like about my chat is they're never afraid to have a different opinion. And let's talk through it real quick. So we'll go through these 3 comments. Ant or Can't, if Watson is available and Trey has chemistry with him, why wouldn't we pick him up? And then we've got KW says, you remember when the Bengals drafted Chase? Now they're in the Super Bowl, just saying. And then JC Montana says, Brandon Aiyuk literally walked out of bounds in the championship game. I don't think he walked out of bounds. I really think his momentum just carried him out of bounds. Right. It does look like a weird play, but when you look at it from all angles, it was just kind of a weird deal. I think he did lose track of where he was at, and also his momentum was carrying him that way. So I wouldn't go that far that he just walked out of bounds. But yeah, maybe he was paid. I don't know. But yeah, as far as these other guys go, yeah, listen, if you can sell me on the fact that Watson is that deal, like he's the next Jamar Chase, he's a generational talent. We just talked about early in the show how most guys it takes 3 years, and we believe that Aiyuk in year 3 is really going to show out. Especially we talk about chemistry. He and Lance are going to be working out a majority of this offseason together. They worked out a majority of last offseason together. I won't say a majority last year, but they worked out last offseason together, and they're going to do it again this year. So I think they're going to develop quite a bit of chemistry. And let's not forget, I want to say his first completion in preseason was to none other, or his first pass rather, was to Brandon Aiyuk. So he has chemistry with Brandon Aiyuk. I think that's what I would rather build on. I'd rather build on a third-year pro who's shown flashes at this level that he does have chemistry with than a guy that he had chemistry with for a single season at the college level and hope that it pans out and the second round pick is worth it. Again, I'm not saying that Watson's not going to be good. The reason that I didn't want to draft Fields wasn't because I thought Fields was bad. I just didn't think what we needed and what Shanahan wanted to work with fit Fields' skill set. And that's kind of where I'm at with Watson. I don't know if Watson's going to be great. I don't know if he's going to be bad. I haven't watched a ton of film on him. But I can tell you nobody's talking about him like he's going to be the next deal at receiver. And so if you're going to spend a high pick on him, your highest pick in the draft, I think you got to go for a guy that's going to be that deal. Now, again, if he's there in the third round, I don't have an issue with it. But first pick, round 2, I can't go. I can't go. But I appreciate what you guys are saying. I hear your opinions. And, you guys know what you're talking about. It's just difference of opinions here. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, we got to be realistic with what this offense does. I think somebody mentioned it. I saw it's a run-first team. It's not only a run-first team. Shanahan's teams, just what he's offensive coordinator and the 49ers, are bottom 5 in pass attempts per game. And this is dating back to him as offensive coordinator with the Atlanta Falcons. Bottom 5 in pass attempts a game. Unless you can guarantee that Christian Watson is going to be levels above Brandon Aiyuk. That's the only reason why I would bring it. And I don't think that anybody could confidently say that. Christian Watson isn't getting a first-round grade. Brandon Aiyuk was drafted in the first round. So you're thinking now all of a sudden there's got to be enough targets for Debo and Aiyuk and Jennings. And then, oh, by the way, we also have this tight end that's pretty good in Kittle. And we've just brought in a new offensive coach in Anthony Lynn, who loves giving the ball out of the backfield to the running backs. So that's more targets there too. Where are the targets for another stud receiver? Like, they're just not there. So why would we utilize a pick in something that just isn't, there's just not enough targets there to justify using a second, even a third round pick, Jesse, in my estimation, on a receiver, especially when you got so much production out of a Juwan Jennings, who was a 7th round pick. I just don't see a need. I think it would be a waste of talent, and we could definitely utilize those picks more in the secondary offensive line where there's a definite need to make this team that much better, live up to their potential.